55 years old. I have lived in the city of Georgetown since 2009. Have followed city government ever since then. I'm highly active with the Swamp Fox Players. I call it my second job that doesn't pay, but it's a labor of love. And I've tried running for city council before and have decided it's time to throw my hat in the ring again.
And before we get into the politics and city council, you mentioned Swamp Fox Players.
Yes.
And as this is being posted online, you're in the middle of your play, A Burglar in My Bed.
Yes.
Tell me just, I don't want to get wrapped up in this, but just a little bit about, what's it like being in a play like that?
It's a fast-paced farce. I end up spending a lot of time on the floor, getting knocked out, knocked around, beat up, knocked unconscious. I end up at one point with a toilet seat wrapped around my head. It's just a hysterical play and lots of fun and a good relaxing environment for those that are attending as well as those of us that are on stage and backstage.
So you started this past Thursday, went over the weekend, and you've got this Thursday and this weekend.
Yes, exactly.
So
tickets are very limited if there's anything left. The matinee is gone, but there are a few scattered seats in the evenings.
Well, good on that. Well, let's talk about city council and why you want to be on city council. No pun intended with the Republican symbol, but the elephant in the room, of course, is the fact that most of your political leanings seem to be Republican, but you are running as a Democrat, and so people, might want to know why you're running as a Democrat.
That's a fair question. I make no bones about it. I am fiscally conservative, possibly even more fiscally conservative than most Republicans. Socially, I tend to run liberally. I have no allegiance to either party. My allegiance is to the United States of America, the state of South Carolina, and the city of Georgetown, and all the people that are encompassed there.
Is it just a thing that you know that if you want a shot of winning in Georgetown, you have to do it that way?
That's actually been a belief of mine, yes.
But did Jonathan Ankner pop that theory by winning as a Republican?
Yes, he did. That was an impressive win, but a well-deserved win. He got out and knocked on every door in the city, I believe, and worked incredibly hard to get the votes.
And I guess the reason I'm bringing him up, if you would have saw his victory before you had to file and decide which party, would you have filed as a Republican once you saw a Republican to win the seat?
I don't think so. Ever since my last run, I have pretty much decided I was going to run as a Democrat. And one reason, I'll go ahead and throw this out. The city of Georgetown is a beautiful, wonderful town, and I don't think we need national political party divisions in town in our elections. What the Republican platform or the Democrat platform puts out and what they do and say has absolutely nothing to do with, does your garbage get picked up? Is the water coming out the faucet when you turn it on? And do your lights come on when you hit the switch?
Do you think that we should try to see if we can get rid of parties for city council and the mayor?
I think that would be the best thing to do, as well as not just to keep division down in the city, but also to cut the cost of city elections, because the city has to pay for these elections, and the more elections we have, primaries, the whole 9 yards, the more it costs the city.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the issues, and of course, right now we're getting ready to go into the last part of the budget season before it has to be ratified by July 1st. City Council does have a meeting Thursday night, and I'm sure the budget's going to be on the agenda. They're going into that meeting with still a shortfall. And you have any ideas? I know you don't have all the paperwork that the council members have. You're like me, an outsider looking in.
Right.
But just from being a Georgetown resident and being involved in politics, any ideas how they can balance that budget?
Without seeing the paperwork, I don't know that I can get into any specifics.
Yes, sort of you're at a disadvantage, but
there's always looking at department consolidations to streamline the workforce, to streamline how we perform the duties and tasks at hand, possibly even partnershiping with the county on some of our mutual interests to share the cost of doing business with the city and the county and its people.
Would you ever support a tax increase?
Coming out of COVID, there's no way I could support a tax increase right now. Our businesses and residents have all suffered over the past year. We've just gotten back to where we're going to have our special events around town. I'm sure that has taken it, well, I know that has taken its toll on businesses. Restaurants have, had to go to takeout only, which increased their costs tremendously by having to buy salt packets, pepper packets, ketchup packets, styrofoam containers, and that type thing. And it's just, the past year has been financially hard on everybody across every spectrum of income level, business, private employers, the whole 9 yards. It's been rough.
It has been rough. Usually especially Front Street businesses, they have to survive floods and things like that. And then, of course, the year we don't have a flood, you have COVID.
There.
And so they've had to deal with that. The county does not have a business license. You can open a business in the county outside, Georgetown or Andrews city limits, and not have to worry about a business license. So some people say, well, I'm being punished for opening a business within the city limits. Do you think that the business licenses should continue in the city?
It is, several years ago when I investigated it, it is right up there with property tax revenues as the primary source of revenue for the city. I understand the need for them. I'd like to be able to find a way to streamline those two entities to save not only businesses money, but especially residents. And one thing I can think of is a local option sales tax for property tax relief.
Now, how would that work?
It would mainly, no offense to those outside the city, but every time someone comes in and shops or dines, they would be helping us pay our property taxes. I've contacted the DOR to try to find out exactly what the city of Georgetown takes in as far as sales taxes go, because we know food's not included in sales tax, nor are prescription drugs. But we have Walmart, which turns millions and millions of dollars worth of business a year, and then all the other stores and restaurants around town that collect sales tax revenue, and it potentially could be a windfall that could help alleviate the stress of business licenses and property taxes.
Any other ways that you can think of that the city government can help businesses in the area?
Right now, easing any and every restriction that is on a business. Georgetown County was the top vaccination scene for the state, which means citizens of Georgetown obviously are getting their vaccine. So I personally think it's time to get back to business. Opening City Hall, it bothers me on a daily basis when I am in line at City Hall trying to get utilities turned on at a rental property, and there are people standing out there in the rain waiting in line trying to pay their utility bills because our government is at a standstill. That breaks my heart, and there's no reason it should be happening like that at this point in time in the game. And the ARB, I'm on the ARB, and we're having our virtual meetings, and when you have internet issues, it drags out an application. Sometimes it's hard to hear people on the telephone, and we need that connectivity back.
So you're ready to get back to in-person meetings?
We as a board discussed it, and yes, we are.
Yeah, and now, of course, we're recording this, almost a week before it's posted. So don't know what's going to happen, but as of the time we're recording this, the mayor says they are evaluating whether they will go back to in-person meetings this Thursday for their May meeting. So you would be happy to see if the decision was made to go to in-person city council meetings this Thursday?
Yes, I actually called Ms. Udise, the city administrator, Monday morning and told her what the ARB had discussed and staff, and asked if we could have, if no one else was doing it, if we could have our next ARB meeting in person. I haven't heard back yet,
Yeah,
but
right.
I guess it's in
I guess it'll be
discussions.
uniform across, all the committees and city council would all do it the same way. Well, just speaking of that, looking back over the past year and a couple of months, how do you feel the city's handled the pandemic?
I think we've done well. The people have persevered. We've endured this. Georgetown has taken a hit, but it seems like always with everything that has come through, the hurricanes, the flood, that as a group we come together, we persevere, and we move forward.
And I think Georgetown was sort of unique in a way, especially with cities its size across the country. During the pandemic, several businesses opened.
Yes.
We had several openings, and brand new businesses that are still open now, that opened during the pandemic last year.
And my hat's off to them, to anyone who takes a chance and opens a business, especially in a time like a pandemic where the uncertainty out there is incredibly high, to just be brave enough to walk in and say, I'm going to do this. I admire them.
Yeah. Now, what about roads? We hear that a lot, and of course, a lot of the roads, or most of the roads, are state roads, and the city has to beg the state to come do something about it. And one we get a lot of complaints about is still Queen Street. I think it's still got a hole in it after a year or so, and the barricade's still up. What do you think the city should be doing to try to get the state to do more about the roads around here? The Maryville Bridge that's still, all
That
messed
one
up.
I have written the DOT several times about and sent photographs. It's pretty rough driving over that bridge now. I guess it's going to take a conversation. I'm not sure if you have to have a certain political weight in Columbia with the DOT to get attention, but somebody's going to have to stir the pot, so to speak, in order to get their attention and get the money coming down here. It's not our fault that 67% of the roads in this state are owned by the state and not by the local communities that probably could do a better job of maintaining them themselves.
Let me ask you something I should have asked you while we were talking about the other topic, but going back to, you mentioned that maybe you'd like to see if we could change council elections and stuff not to be partisan.
Yes.
But what about strong mayor form of government? Should that continue, or is that something that should be looked at, maybe changing that?
I think that needs to be changed. I think we need a professional town manager who is answerable to council as a whole to run the city free from political influence. The strong mayor is basically an archaic idea in this state. I think we're one of 4 municipalities that have that form of government. And the Tim Chapman incident just really cemented in my head that we need to get rid of this form of government and let all the employees know that they have a board of 7 that's either going to take an issue with them, but not the voice of one. And that's not casting any aspersions on Brendan. It's just...
Well, let me just ask you, about the argument against that came up during our interview yesterday with Mr. Tupelo Humes, who's on city council, and he says he's never heard anybody ask for a strong mayor form of government to be rescinded and changed it until we had our first black mayor.
No, actually, he needs to go back and investigate. There was a vote several years ago, and at the last minute, former Mayor Scoble changed his mind and voted to keep the strong mayor form instead of voting it down.
So this was an
This has
issue
been addressed
in the
many
past.
times in the past, yes.
Okay.
I have spoken before council several times on it since 2009 about changing the form of our government.
Okay. And so is this something if you're elected, you may bring up and say, because I know it would have to go through a referendum and everything else. I mean, council
The
can't just
strong
change
mayor
it.
form of government can be done by council.
Oh, it doesn't have to go through a
It
referendum.
doesn't have to go through a referendum.
The change to
partisanship,
nonpartisan would have
yes.
to be, okay.
And then
Would
the
you ever,
Justice Department would have to get involved, and we may have to have districts and that type thing, but, the county has districts, but they also have partisan elections. I'd like to just see everybody be able to throw their hat in the ring and come November, show up to the polls and see what happens and go from there with it.
what's some of the issues, you've been hearing people talk about? We ask the ones that we think are important, but you may be hearing other things that people are more concerned about.
The biggest one has been resolved. It was getting our special events back, like Halloween, the Christmas, those type things that mostly are for kids, because our kids have been punished unrelentlessly during this pandemic through no fault of parents or anything else, just everybody trying to do what we could do to figure out and be safe. And I mean, Jason Collins, who I think is running as an independent
For mayor, yeah.
yeah, he several times a year would have a carnival out at his businesses in his neighborhood and have things. It was things for kids to go and do, and they've just been deprived of all that. And I'd love to see the children get their lives back to normal as much. We're adults, we can survive. The kids, they just need normalcy back in their life.
So people are ready for it. Is that what you've been hearing? Is, hey, we've got to get out of the house.
That's what I've been living with the Small Fox Players since we had our first play in September after the governor lifted the order. We have filled seats for 4 performances now, 4 shows. We are doing COVID seating, 3 seats between parties and every other row, which has limited our seating to about 1/3, but we have sold out just about every performance we've had going, and even added a couple of performances in some of the past plays.
Do you think that's going to continue when the next play happens? Because I know, like, even Darlington, they said, their next race, 100%.
I think, and we've got to discuss it as the board of the theater, but I'm pretty sure the majority of people are going to be willing to say, we're going to open back up full capacity and see what happens. If it doesn't work, we can always switch back to leaner means of seating people instead of packing an auditorium.
What do you want people to know? I mean, we've got the primary coming up, and there's 5 people on the ballot. 3 of them will win and advance to November. Why should you be one of the 3?
I have a positive outlook for the city of Georgetown. I have a great love for the city of Georgetown and all its people. My campaign slogan is keep Georgetown united and keep Georgetown strong. And I just want to work from every corner of this city to ensure the best quality of life for everyone who resides here. Absentee voting is open. You're welcome to get out and absentee vote now. The primary election is on June 8th, and I'm asking for your vote. Come out, give me a chance. I'm hardworking, I'm dependable, and I'm a problem solver more so than a problem seeker. So come out, vote Lee Padgett, June 8th.